Hi, today is August 4th, 2025, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 1200 for the year, In the Ordinary. The way the green ring on one side reflects in the window on the other side. The way the reflected green ring rhymes with the non-reflected. The way the handrail looks like a tuning fork. I don't ride the subway as often as I used to, but even when I do, most of the time I look, but I don't see. But sometimes I see, and sometimes when I see, what I see is the extraordinary in the ordinary. Poem number 1201, the Say We're Naked podcast. They started a podcast called the Say We're Naked podcast, wherein they said they were naked at the beginning of the podcast, but also acknowledged that they actually weren't. And then over the course of each episode of the podcast, they tried to behave as if they were naked, as if, like Adam and Eve, they had just discovered that they were naked. They tried to do the podcast with the same kind of shame that they imagined Eve and Adam had before they were cast out of the garden. The podcast was a great success. People embraced the shame and the embarrassment of the hosts and the guests. People would even call in and say that they were naked or send emails of support that they would claim were written in the nude. Over time, though, the hosts and the guests got so used to saying they were naked that they were no longer able to generate the same kind of shame and embarrassment. Once that happened, the podcast lost rather a lot of its appeal. Poem number 1202, Worth the Trip. Maybe I spend too much time indulging in the transcendental sublime instead of building something real and concrete. But long before I was introduced to the Hindu concept of Maya, I had my suspicions about what passes for reality. And in my search for the truth, I have been dazzled and distracted by psychedelic beauty and abstraction. But it's worth the trip, and I'll accept the risk of occasional delusion if it helps me to overcome this crippled, warped reality. And the last poem of the day, it's not the last poem of the day, sorry. Poem number 1203, To Collaborate. I may want to collaborate with an artist who is willing to make some kind of artwork out of my corpse after I die. Something beyond the obvious detaching of the penis. Something that would get me recognized as the model for the artwork and would seal the deal on that New York Times obituary. Of course, the plans to make the artwork would have to be announced in advance while I was still alive. Else, by the time the artwork was made, it would be too late to be included in an obituary, which would at least partially defeat the purpose. I don't know what kind of art I'd want to make out of my body. Maybe something like what Damien Hirst did with that shark. I don't know. I'm not that kind of artist. That's why I would have to collaborate. Poem number 1204, The Simplicity. In her search for simplicity, for ideas expressible in 50 words or fewer, she hit a wall, but not too hard, just hard enough to create a couple of cracks. With a photographer's loupe, she looked and embraced the simplicity of the cracks and the simplicity of the wall. And the last poem of the day, that was the last poem of the day. Sorry. Thank you. I appreciate you.